Good day, everyone. Today, I would like to show how to change the frets. Now, this guitar is a custom Explorer, looking like Explorer Gibson, that I have built myself. I have a logo that's called Rockerzee Custom Guitars, and I build Explorer and Starbody Jackson nylon strings guitars. Now, the Explorer comes with 19 original classical frets, with 19 frets, while the Starbody, I can always choose from 19 to 24 frets. But what I'm going to show you today is that some factories, when they put the frets on, they glue the frets, of course, and you have to heat them up to take them out. But since I have built this guitar myself, I don't glue them. I cut them with the thinnest, the sharpest saw that I have. And now, you know, saws, when you saw on the fretboard, even if you choose 1 millimeter, there's a swing like on the saw, and when you cut, it makes it more than 1 millimeter. And when you put the frets in and you hit them with hammer to put the frets in, it's still loose. That's why maybe they use glue. But if you take that swing away and make it straight, it becomes lesser than, of course, lesser than 1 millimeter, maybe 0.75 millimeter, and then it cuts very thin. And when you put the frets in, they go in by force and they sit, and you don't have to glue them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change these frets because I've been working on them and doing things on them, so they're vary, and I would like to put new ones, of course. So what I do is that I have these, and they're sharp on the top. So I put under the frets, I force it under the frets, and I like push them up slowly, there. As you see, there, it comes out easily. So I take them out one by one. Now they sit a bit hard, but you have to, of course, try your best. This one. Now these frets, I'm not going to use them again, of course. I'm going to throw them away. So even if they get bent, you can always hit them back or straighten them right. So it's just to take them out one by one. Now this one sits tight. Now we try the other side. There. If you can get them out on one side, you can try the other side to get them out. Now, Rockerzee Custom Guitars is the only logo that makes custom classical Starbody Jackson and Explorer Gibson guitars. I build them. Of course, I have my own internet site that's called www.rockerzeecustomguitars.com, and you will always find me on Facebook and Instagram. So if you'd like to see what I have done or how I build these, if you're interested, of course, if you're interested in these types of guitars, like Explorer shape or Starbody shape, you can always find me on Facebook, Instagram, and my internet site. So you take these out one by one. Now, if you can always look at the frets to see which one is usable for later, of course. If they're not hurt, if they don't have any problems, you can always keep them for later and use them on a shorter line. For example, like if this one here is usable, you can always use it here, and then I've cut the rest and use it, of course. Now I go to the other side of the table to make it more easy for me. There, you see? This is the way you take the frets out. Now, like I said, if you can't get it out on one side, you can always try the other side, but you should know that you should use a sharp thing like this to take the threads out, and do it slowly. This one sits there. Now there's always rest small pieces here and there that you have to clean, of course. And if you have problems with the notes, like for example, if you play on a G and then you have a special sound on G sharp or A, you don't have to like work on these, but you can work always on the wood to make the wood straight. When you have these kind of problems, it's not because of the frets, it's because of the wood, because the wood is not plain enough. It has ups and downs. So the best thing you can do is to like do that. Now this is a piece of tree that is very plain, and you stiffed sandpaper on both end sides, and you can always use such a tool to work on the fretboard to make it straight. Now if the fretboard is like used and you begin to use this tool on it to take away the rest or ups and downs, you can always see, like for example here it gets dusty, for example, and there does not get dusty. It shows that this one is up and this one it does not even touch. The sandpaper does not even touch. It means that the fretboard is not plain. So now let's see. So now chew on what I have said, and I'll be back for a moment. All right, now part 2. Now, you know, building your own grinding tool like this one, a piece of tree and sandpaper on, that is very plain, and different types of course, sandpaper. And I use this aluminium. Now most of people, you know, they go and buy expensive stuff to do their job. Once I was in Spain, Granada, and I was in this shop, old shop that build guitars. They used tools from 500 years ago, and they did perfect job. They almost sold flamenco guitars for 45,000 euros, and they used, everything was handmade like this in wood. Now I use this tool, this aluminium that is very plain and straight, just to put on the fretboard and sit. I sit down and look at the fretboard to see. I move it from like up to down to see what is plain and what is not plain. And you see it, of course. You see if this tool sits straight line on the fretboard. Now, when I look at this, I see that this part is going down. Now, that's not very much problem. On the frets, on the lines, of course, from there to there, it has to be straight, and it should not move this way or that way. It should be straight. So I see that there is some there. So the problem is this part. This part is not plain as it's supposed to be. Sometimes when you adjust your machine to make the wood plain, it doesn't do the job right. As this one is a table saw, as you see there. And if the blade is not straight, it doesn't cut straight. It bends. Even 0.5 millimeter makes trouble for the fretboard. So that's one of the mistakes people make. So now I begin to grind on this side. Now, when I grind on this part, I see that wood rest is filling all these holes. But here, on the top, just a bit. It means this part is very flat. This part does not even touch. That's why when the strings are on and you put your finger on notes, different notes, it makes a special noise, because the string meets the other frets, because this part is not flat like. So just to continue, and try to make the fretboard as plain as possible. Now, I've been building guitars since 2006. I mean real guitars like neck and bodies and electric guitars and classical guitars. And I like to build like heavy metal shape guitars like this Explorer. Now the case is too big. It's good because it makes it gives a heavy bass and very good discount. It's a bit different than normal round classical guitar. If people are interested in these types of shapes, heavy metal shapes, classical guitar, they can always contact me on www.rockerzeecustomguitars.com or on Facebook. Or on Instagram. There. Now let's see. We try once more. There. Now it doesn't move because it sits flat, of course, on the fretboard on that side. There. Almost perfect. Let's say 99%. Now we use this one. To grind on the fretboard and make it as plain as possible. You have to work on it and you need patience. Building guitars or working on guitars or small things in wood, you have to have patience, of course. There. Now let's clean that mess up. There. Now let's see once more. There. And another thing is that the reason that they make the classical guitars with 19 frets is because the case is empty inside. And if the neck is too long, it can be a bit difficult for the wood to hold, of course, because the way they build inside this case. It can be a bit difficult for the wood to hold the neck, and the neck breaks this way the moment you tune to original note. It can, of course, because the wood here is around 2 millimeters. Now some guitars, some cheap guitars from China, they have even 2.5 millimeters, while acoustic guitars that has microphones are almost sometimes 3 millimeters on the sides, 2.5 on the top. So like normal good classic guitars that are expensive, they use 2 millimeters on this one, and the frets are 19, so it's not that long, of course. And especially like these guitars that I built, because now a round guitar, you could have these frets almost there, while on my guitars the fretboard comes just a bit inside the wood. Then it means that it's difficult for the wood to hold the fretboard. Now on Starbody, because the Starbody is exactly like Explorer, it's just that the case in the end here is cut. That's why it's called Starbody. Looks like a star. And then when the fretboard is 24, from here to there and even longer, it's difficult for the case to hold the neck. So then you gotta be an expert to build a Starbody like custom with 24 threads and make the case somehow that it holds the fretboard, because the fretboard is too long. But I do it anyhow. I've learned myself. So now what I'm gonna do is to give you a chance to make yourself a cup of coffee, and the third part is coming very soon. Hello and welcome back to the third part. Now what I'm going to show you is, now this is the old saw. You know, you can always buy new saws like this. It doesn't have to be very expensive, but it does the job anyhow. Now this is a new one, and when you look at the saw, there's small swings that make the lines even bigger as more than 1 millimeter. But this one, like, I've grind on the sides and I've taken that small swing away and it's straight. Now another thing about fretboard is that, let's say you make a fretboard, or let's say that your guitar has problems with the notes, and the next fretboard meets the string because they're so low distance. So when you put your finger on E major down here, the F meets the string. As I told you, it's not because of the fret. You don't have to touch the frets, but the fretboard is a problem. So now either the cut is not deep enough and the fret does not sit, of course, on the fretboard, because it has to sit flat. If the cut is not deep enough, it doesn't sit. Especially if you use wood like this one. This is wood from India that I have used on this guitar. It's a very tough wood, very hard one. And if you have, like, for example, let's say if you make a fretboard on these types of wood with big lines, white wood, that's very soft. Like in Norway we have lots of it, in Europe of course. So this one, if you make a line